You ever been mocked, excluded, or judged because of your faith? Maybe it's a subtle eyebrow raise from a colleague when you mention church, or that shift in the conversation when you shared your belief. Or perhaps it was blatant and direct criticism, a lost opportunity, or even broken relationships. Most of us have been taught to endure prosecution with gritted teeth, to tolerate it as some unfortunate side effect of following Jesus. We view it as something to be survived rather than celebrated. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if persecution isn't just a burden to bear, but actually contains within it the seeds of profound blessings? Jesus didn't just tell us to endure prosecution. He told us to rejoice in it, to be glad about it, to leap for joy when it happens. That's not just counterintuitive, it's downright crazy revolutionary. And today we're going to explore why Jesus called persecution a blessing and how this upside down perspective can transform our experience of opposition. We'll discover how the very things meant to diminish our faith can actually be catalysts for something much deeper. Hey, I'm Adam, and we do daily devotionals for busy Christians who want to deepen their walk with Christ in practical and meaningful ways. Let's dive into Matthew 5:12 and uncover the hidden treasures within persecution, the sacred lineage of the persecuted. In Matthew 5:12, Jesus says something remarkable. Quote, "Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for so they persecuted the prophets who were before you." End quote. Notice that final phase, the prophets who were before you. When we face opposition for our faith, we're not isolated anomalies. We're standing in a sacred lineage that stretches back throughout time. Think about it. When someone opposes you because of your faith, they're inevitably confirming your connections to Isaiah, to Jeremiah, to Daniel, to all those who stood for truth when it wasn't popular. There's this old oak tree near my childhood home that has weathered countless storms. Its trunk bears scars from lightning strikes, and its branches show the reshaping influences of decades of wind. Yet somehow it stands more majestic, more character-filled than any perfectly shaped, untested sapling beside it. The oak tree didn't just survive the storms, it was reshaped by them, made more distinctive by them. When we face opposition, we're being shaped into something distinctive. Our faith isn't just surviving, it's developing character and depth that simply couldn't form any other way. The prophets weren't remembered because they had easy lives. They were remembered because they stood firm when standing firm cost everything. But we're not going to stop here. There's something even more profound to see: the authentication of opposition. Have you ever considered that opposition might actually authenticate faith rather than threaten it? Gold was tested by fire. The intense heat would cause impurities to separate from the gold, allowing them to be removed. The fire didn't destroy the gold, it revealed its true quality and increased its value. When your faith faces fire, it's not evidence of your failure, it's evidence that what you're carrying is genuine enough, valuable enough to attract attention. I'm reminded of the winter frost that always settles on the windows here. It doesn't form randomly, it follows the slight imperfections in the glass, revealing patterns that were always there but previously invisible. In the same way, persecution often reveals the authentic contours of our faith, showing us what we truly believe when comfort is no longer motivating our choices. And this leads us to perhaps the most counterintuitive aspect of persecution: the economics of heaven, loss that multiplies. Jesus didn't just tell us to endure prosecution. He told us to rejoice in it because your reward is great in heaven. This isn't just positive thinking. It's a revelation about spiritual economics. Picture a farmer holding a seed in springtime. To someone unfamiliar with agriculture, what the farmer does next would seem like madness. Taking perfectly good seed and burying them in the ground, it looks like loss. It looks like waste. But the farmer knows what appears to be loss is actually just the beginning of multiplication. When we lose something for Christ, whether it's a social standing, a career advancement, relationship, or simply comfort, we're not just losing, we're planting. What looks like diminishment to the world's eye is actually the beginning of multiplication in God's economy. The Apostle Paul understood this when he wrote that our monetary light affliction is producing for us an eternal weight of glory far beyond all comparison, like a small investment that yields returns far beyond imagination. What we surrender or lose to Christ becomes the very soil from which abundance grows. This isn't prosperity gospel or something like that. This is far more profound. It's recognizing that when the world system can no longer reward our conformity because we've chosen obedience to Christ instead, heaven's reward system activates on our behalf. And as we journey onward, let's look at how this transforms our daily experiences, from victims to victors, reframing our response. So how do we practically live out this call to rejoice in persecution? It begins with a fundamental shift in perspective. Imagine walking along a wooded path and encountering resistance. Thick underbrush, fallen trees, difficult terrain. You could view these obstacles as evidence that you're lost on the trail, or you could recognize them as confirmation that you're pioneering a path that very few have taken, that you're venturing where others haven't had the courage to go. When we face opposition for our faith, we can view ourselves as victims or being treated unfairly, or we can recognize ourselves as pioneers advancing the kingdom where resistance is naturally strongest. It's not denial or toxic positivity. It's the clear-eyed perspective that recognizes opposition for what it truly is. Not evidence of our failure, but often confirmation of our effectiveness. The early Christians didn't just endure persecution. They wore it as a badge of honor, evidence they were living differently enough to be noticed. They understood something that we often forget. Neutrality never changed the world. If your faith never encourages pushback, it might be worth asking whether it's challenging anything at all. As we close today, I want to invite you to re-examine the opposition you're faced with in your faith. Those moments weren't just obstacles to overcome. They were sacred opportunities to participate in the story of God's kingdom advancing against resistance. The call to rejoice in persecution isn't a command to seek suffering or develop a martyr complex. It's an invitation to recognize the profound value and authenticity of a faith worth opposing, a truth worth attacking, a light bright enough to cast shadows. When Jesus tells us to rejoice and be glad when facing persecution, he's not asking us to deny pain. He's inviting us to see beyond it, to recognize that what looks like loss in the world's economy is actually gain in the economy of heaven. He's asking us to trust that the seeds of faith planted in the soil of opposition will yield a harvest far beyond what we could have ever imagined. Hey, my friend, I would love to have you join our 30-day prayer challenge where we dig deep into scripture, connect with God, and build a habit that sticks. There's going to be a link below or in our bio. You can get your free Faith Labs download, and we look forward to having you as part of the Faith Lab family. Once again, I'm Adam Wilbur, and as always, my friend, onward.